We jump to Canada because Ontario's transit agency is writing off more than $500 million it spent on upgrading signalling around the main station in downtown Toronto. This is Metrolinx writing off 504 million Canadian dollars, which is quite spectacular. We're having challenges with our kind of rollout of modernized signaling, but this makes even spending $100 million upgrading a Class 66 look stupid. £100 million. Yeah, this is baffling. Why don't design abortive work like this? You can't. Designing £500 million worth of abortive work is quite something. There's a kind of a whole history to this, right? So January 2024, Metrolinx announced it accepted a proposal from On Express, made up of kind of like Deutsche Bahn and Aecon concessions, to plan and run its rail system. The plan was that this would start in January 2025. The agreement with them was unveiled in 2022 would modernize and transform the rail network. Months after they were supposed to have taken over the operations, they ran off. They parted ways with Metrolinx, leaving a contract that was supposed to run for 23 years abandoned. The result has been, I guess we have to in-house this and no one else wants to pick it up. Yikes. So that means that Metrolinx has now realised they're getting a major shift and they're going to move away from relying on consultants and towards having full-time in-house staff. Good idea is all I'll say to that, because $500 million. Oh boy, that's painful.
This reminds me of a video I was watching earlier in the week about a similar sort of cock-up that's happened with Stuttgart 21, where they forgot to tell the basically the train operators that they were installing ETCS in the area. So they forgot to, give sufficient notice to the train operators to upgrade all their rolling stock to ETCS. Yep. So now they've started installing the legacy signaling system alongside the ETCS. But then because they were in such a rush to do that, they installed the wrong cables for the signals. So they've installed, I forget how many kilometers, but like a lot, like a long length of cables along the entire route of Stuttgart 21, because it's not just the station, it's like all the lines leading in and out.
The approaches,
yeah. And all of the cables that they've laid now have to be ripped out because they were in such a rush to get this legacy signaling system put in, as well as ETCS, that they just started laying the cables without actually checking that they were the right type.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Oh my goodness.
We moved to Germany, actually, because GSMR fall down again. This happened in the southeast of England, right, fairly recently. It's happened in Germany at a massive scale. A major problem with GSMR resulted in trains being held at stations and huge lines at information desks as everyone tried to work out what the hell was going on. Famously, having travelled in Germany a lot, I've never travelled by train in Germany without there being a problem. It's Germany's rail network is not nearly as good as everyone says, and that's only beaten by how bad their customer information is. So Deutsche Bahn said shortly after, before 1 a.m., so 2.5 hours after it first reported the outage, that the problem had been resolved and the service was resuming step by step. But basically they refused to give actual clarity. They still haven't given clarity on exactly what happened. But yeah, GSMR falling down is not good. Could it have been a cyber attack? Quite possibly. Those sorts of things are happening more often. But also it could have just been someone sitting on the off button on a server rack somewhere. Those sorts of things also happen. So yes, I picked this video still because this is one of the coolest looking couples I've ever seen.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, that picture is so incredibly. That is vibes right there. Yeah, absolutely.
It goes really hard. These two, I wish them a long and powerful life. So what else? Unfortunately, we remain in Germany for something rather more subdued, which is in a jarring shift of tone. About the same time as we had our fatal crash recently, in Bedford, there was a crash in Munich. Two freight trains colliding with each other on a bridge, resulting in a fatality. It's not clear where the fatality has occurred. My fear is that it might be someone at road level, but it is not clear or it could be a driver. It's not clear. But the crash, this isn't good. We don't like throwing trains off bridges in the path of the public.
Yeah, no, that's really quite spectacularly bad.
Yeah, it's not clear what's. I look forward to people in the comments. If there's further details that's come out on this, feel free to drop in the comments what's known about this one. Yeah, really not good at all. We jump across the Atlantic though. You might say transatlantic or transatlantic, and that's another thing. To talk about the fact that the NYC Gateway project, well, the move to halt the funding for the project was flagrantly illegal, a judge has said. A federal judge found on Monday that the Trump administration's decision to halt funding for the Gateway Tunnel project ran afoul of the law and permanently barred it from freezing the grants again. Does that mean that Trump has been defeated on this one? Maybe. Is he desperately trying to divert funds from this into building a sort of a golden palace above Penn Station? Also maybe. Again, listen to Transatlantic on that one. Yeah, so yeah, if you want to know more about Gateway Project, we're going to do an episode on the Gateway Project at some point soon. But also go back to the There's Your Problem podcast episode where we did Penn Station, and we talk a lot about the Gateway Project and question it, basically. Let's talk about more stupid things as we get to the very end, because does everyone remember this? The Flexy, the railroad shuttle project that was going to solve rural transport. Yeah, it's been abandoned. It's been canned off. Yeah, it's not. They're not going to be running as planned. Since 2023, this shuttle had been under development by the SNCF consortium a consortium including SNCF, Mila, who's a kind of a driverless vehicle manufacturer. Those things don't exist, remember. The Ile-de-France-based technological research institute Railenium, interesting, and Michelin. Michelin always keen to be involved in anything that puts tires on vehicles that should just have steel on steel. If there's a possibility of putting tires on a railway vehicle, they will be investing in it. But the withdrawal of Mila from this, or Mila, I pronounce it how you will, it could be Mia. Anyway, the autonomous vehicle manufacturer withdrew for technical reasons. They're collapsing in on themselves, I suspect, as with any of these boondoggle companies. Yeah. Brought the project to a halt as a new manufacturer could not be found. The decision has significant consequences as the project, valued at 36 million euros, had received 10 million in state subsidies through the French Agency for Ecological Transition. Well, as we know, there is nothing the EU does not love throwing millions of euros at scale. They just love to do it. They absolutely love to do it. On which subject? We bid farewell, a moment's pause for the Flexy.
RIP. It's like, what if we took the worst of trains and the worst of cars and combined them to something that has the advantages of neither and the disadvantages of both?
Yeah,
absolutely
exactly.
top stuff.
Let's do that.
RIP them.
RIP to a real one. Talking of the EU, well, the European Commission once again hates trains. We're once again in a we hate trains situation because the European Commission and member states took an important step to reducing dependence on fossil fuels in the road transport. Remember everyone where I said put a pin in the fact that rail is the most electrified form of transport on the continent? Well, just unpin that now and hold in your hand that idea. EU ministers from 9 member states endorsed the first 2 roadmaps developed under the Clean Transport Corridor Initiative. It's kind of aimed at accelerating the deployment of charging infrastructure for zero-emission trucks. Zero-emission trucks. There's an alternative to those. What might it be called? Along 2 major 10T corridors. So those are the big strategic transport corridors in Europe. The Scandinavian-Mediterranean corridor and the North Sea-Baltic corridor. This initiative marks an important milestone under the European Automotive Industrial Action Plan, reflecting a shared ambition to accelerate the deployment of zero-emission freight transport across Europe. Zero-emission freight transport. Now, what form of that exists?
If only someone had invented that, I don't know, 100 years ago.
140 at the current going rate.
Well, quite, yeah.
Okay. So, right.
Is this going to be like that thing that we looked at ages ago of let's put wires above the motorway? And or is it just let's install some chargers? Well, what are we dealing with here?
I can tell you. So those roadmaps identify priority actions which are infrastructure gaps and investment needs, including the energy sector, so gaps in power supply in sort of distribution network, the things like deployment of charging infrastructure, coordination across borders, shared standards. Increasing certainty for investors and operators. This is pure European Commission. Well, this is pure European Commission neolib brain. You have to remember that the European Commission, of all the bodies within the EU, the European Commission is the most weird neolib hawkish German part of the organization. The part of the organization most ripe for someone running around with sack and kidnapping members and taking them and showing them how good trains are. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, once again, so the European Commission refusing to acknowledge the existence of trains, and that feels like a nice place to end, because don't worry, Britain is stupid, but Europe at large is also extremely stupid.